Russian President Vladimir Putin also announced he's suspending the New START treaty with the United States, which limits the number of nuclear warheads each nation can deploy. The veiled threat comes amid fears Russia might conduct a nuclear test to intimidate Ukraine and its Western allies. Chief Foreign Correspondent Ian Pannell joins me live from Kyiv, along with ABC's Inez de la Quatara in Warsaw for more on that. Ian, how does this New START treaty work, and how significant is this suspension?
OK, first of all, let's deal with how it works. The New START treaty was signed by Barack Obama and Dmitry Medvedev, who was then Russian president, back in 2010, came into force in 2011, and was extended by Joe Biden in 2021. Essentially, it limits the number of nuclear weapons, the number of long-range nuclear bombers that both sides can have. So 1,500, no more than around 1,500 strategic nuclear weapons, and no more than around 700 long-range missiles and bombers. It also allows for inspections by both sides each year, up to 18 inspections, and basically what Vladimir Putin said today was, under the current atmosphere, he felt it wasn't right that Americans would be allowed to conduct those kinds of inspections. Now, I think it's important that it's a suspension. It's not a wholesale withdrawal. It seems like a warning shot across America's bow. Perhaps it's a response to President Biden's appearance and speech yesterday, some of the language there. But it is an indication, I think, of these rising tensions between the two leaders, between the two countries, over the war in Ukraine.
Now, the announcement came during Putin's annual State of the Nation address, Ian. So what else stuck out to you from that speech?
I mean, it was very long. It was very angry. He again pointed the finger of blame at America and the West for the responsibility of the invasion. He basically accused them of starting the conflict, in particular by citing what had happened to Russian-speaking minorities in the east of the country, that Russia had somehow come to protect them, even though it's patently not the case on the ground, especially, for example, in Russian-speaking cities like Kharkiv. The population absolutely resisted the attempts by Russia to take it over. He referred to, again, this idea that America was in league with Nazis, and that the regime here in Kyiv, as he called it, was, again, some kind of sort of fascist entity, and that he was leading this fight in favor of a multipolar world. I don't think there was anything dramatically new. I think in some senses what surprised me was that he didn't double down really on the conflict. There were some fears that perhaps he could order a mobilization, perhaps that he would actually refer to it as a war rather than this ongoing special military operation. He didn't do either of those things, but I think what was very clear was that there was no backing down, there was no easing off. He justified the war to a Russian audience. He basically rallied the nation, its economy, its people behind this campaign, which he said was about the survival of Russia. But I don't expect to see any changes on the ground. Russia's campaign is still running into difficulties, but here we have a leader who thinks that if he continues to go ahead with it, he can outlast Ukraine, and more importantly, he can outlast Ukraine's allies.
All right, Inez. President Biden is set to give remarks in Poland today. So how is he expected to use, and is he expected to use, this speech as an opportunity to respond to Vladimir Putin?
So we did get some details from National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan this morning. He says this speech will be vintage Joe Biden, but he's pushing back on this notion that this will be a kind of split-screen moment. Certainly, they're acknowledging that that's how things worked out, that the timing worked out that way, but they're saying the White House didn't intend for Biden to speak on the same day as Russian President Vladimir Putin. They're saying during the speech, Biden is not going to go head-to-head with the Russian president, that this is not going to be a rhetorical contest. We can expect Biden to push back on Russia's allegations that it was the West that started the war in Ukraine, but they're saying that the White House is saying that overall this speech will be an affirmative statement of values. This will be Biden laying out his vision for what he thinks the world could and should look like. And what we also know he will not be talking about is any kind of off-ramp to end the war, any kind of negotiations that Ukraine should engage in. That's interesting because this, of course, comes at a time as we mark the one-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine, where there are some countries who are beginning beginning to call into question President Zelensky's approach, whose support might be wavering a little bit. And that's part of what President Biden will try to do during this trip. During his speech, he's going to try and rally international support for Ukraine. He's going to talk about how this is about more than just freedom in Ukraine. It's about democracy at large. We heard him talking about that a little bit yesterday, and we can expect to hear more about that today during his speech.
All right, Ian, panel, Inez de la Cuatara, thank you both.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.